Praise the Lord, everyone, and welcome back to Cooking with the Garris Girls. I'm your host, LaShante Garris. Today on the show, we have a special guest, my younger sister, Felicity Garris, who's going to help you guys make a yummy lamb stew from scratch. Felicity, take it away.
Thank you, Leah. So today we're going to be making, like she said, a delicious lamb stew all the way from scratch. Okay, we're going to start by chopping our fresh vegetables here. I like to do the bell pepper first because you have to, kind of gut it. So, I'll move these to the side and we can begin our bell pepper. It's a simple technique. You really just cut around. So, after we got our bell pepper, we're going to start slicing it up. Alright, now that our bell pepper has been chopped, we can move on to the rest of the vegetables. But first, we're going to take 4 cups of water, put them in our pot, and get it started for the broth. Next, we're going to chop the rest of our vegetables, and here are our carrots. I really like to remove the heads of the carrots first, because they take a little bit longer to boil down. Then we're going to just take them nice and easy and just chop. You don't have to chop them really thin. They kind of shrink when they're in the broth, but things like that big, that shouldn't be there. Just chop those suckers in half. Move on to the next one. Alright, we're going to move on from our carrot and go to our next vegetable, which is celery. We're going to cut off the end, set that aside, and take out the little leaves that are in between there, and just cut it up nice and easy. Alright, you can cut up 2 at a time because celery isn't too thick, it's not too hard or tough to cut through. Now, next vegetable is going to be the scallions. I use about, I'd say 8 scallions, and you don't use the entire thing. That's the key. Now scallions should be treated like onions. They're kind of very strong. They do water your eyes a bit, but I soaked mine in a little water before we began, so it's not going to bother me as much. Last but not least, we're going to move on to our corn on the cob. Now I really like to use fresh corn, but it's okay to have it frozen and unthawed for those of you that aren't in a sunny city right now. It's dead winter over here. So, first thing we're going to do is remove the corn from the cob. This can be a little difficult if you have wobbly hands, but you really want to hold it down firmly and just kind of cut nice and easy down the cob. Alright, now that we've finished chopping our fresh vegetables, we're going to take them and put them into the hot water. Very nice and easy. You can see the steam rising because it's got to a nice good temperature. And we're going to add our seasonings right now to ready the broth. Just a spritz of adobo, crushed red peppers for the spiciness, sea salt to, add salt. We're going to add a little bit of gravy master for just a bit of flavor, but mostly for the coloring. You don't really need too much, but I really like my stew to be a brownish color. So, to keep it from tasting strictly like gravy, you add a little bit of soy sauce. That adds color, and it adds a bit of flavor as well. The first thing we're going to do with our ½ pound of lamb is remove it from the bone. This could be a bit tough if you're not very experienced with meat removing from bones, but it should be rather easy to do. Now, lamb is a natural tender meat, but they've got these little fatty parts on there that you might want to strip away once you're done cutting it from the bone. I like to take them off. For certain dishes, they do add a bit more flavor, but I really just like the meat for the stew. No one likes to get a big chewy piece of fat with their spoonful. And now we're going to begin seasoning. I like to take a layer of seasoned salt and just sprinkle it down. Adobo right on top of the seasoning salt. Use a lot of black pepper, because if it's too salty, you can always just counter it with some good old pepper. And I love pepper. I'm a very peppery person. And then for spice, add the crushed red peppers. This is actually really spicy. On top of the cayenne for the broth, whew, it's amazing. Now, just mix it on in there nice and good. And take your raw meat and just roll it through, nice and easy. Alright, now that we finished seasoning our meat, we're just gonna coat it in a nice little bit of flour, all-purpose flour. Because the flour, once you're done frying it, it'll go into the broth and it'll thicken it up so that it won't be very soupy, because I really like a thick stew. Alright, now we're gonna add our secret ingredient, 2 potatoes. Just gonna chop them nice and thick because potatoes tend to shrink when they're boiled. For those of you who are expert mashed potato makers, when you boil them, they do tend to shrink a little. So you're just gonna chop them kind of big, not too huge. You don't want a big old chunk on your spoon in a little broth. You want to get a bit of everything on your spoon. So you make them thick, but not humongous. Alright, so now we're going to just take our potatoes and add them to the broth. The reason why I add them a little bit later is because they shrink and you don't want them getting really tiny. But also, I don't want the potatoes to get too mushy from boiling in the broth. Just gonna stir them in. Alright, it sounds like our oil is getting pretty hot, so we're just gonna slowly scoop this in. You got a nice sizzle sound going in there. It's really good. Lamb cooks kind of fast, so you don't really need to hover over it. Now this is kind of a deep fry. If you want to add a little bit less oil, you can, but I really like to cover it fully because it cooks it just a little bit faster and it keeps it from popping really badly. Alright, now we have one more secret ingredient. We're going to add some Lipton onion recipe soup and dip mix. All you need is 1 pack to go into the broth. It really helps thicken it up a little. So here we go. Add this to the broth before you add the lamb. Stir that in. It's got a great flavor to it, so it's perfect. Alright, looks like our lamb is pretty much done. So we're just going to take it out directly from here and add it into the broth. This is going to help it thicken up. You only need to cook it on high for about, I'd say 10 to 15 minutes. Pretty simple. You don't need to drain or anything. Just drop them right in. Now, they don't need to be completely done because they're going to finish simmering inside of the broth. Alright, when you're done with your lamb stew, this is exactly how it should look. You can see every ingredient just by looking at the surface. The nice rich color, the texture of the potatoes is great. Here's your corn. Have your scallions and your peppers in there, your celery, and there's the carrots as well. And nice meaty chunks of lamb are right in there. It looks good, smells good, and it tastes good too. This is a delicious lamb stew. I really hope you guys enjoyed making this because I'm enjoying eating it. It's amazing. Great. Thanks for watching. I'd like to thank my studio audience for being a great guest today and my cameraman, my little sister, Angelina Garris. The ingredients used in today's recipe lamb stew were 1/2 pound of lamb, 1 green bell pepper, scallions, corn on the cob, carrots, and 1 stalk of celery. For seasoning, we used Gravy Master, black pepper, crushed red peppers, cayenne pepper, seasoning salt, sea salt, soy sauce, adobo, and 1 pack of Goya Sazon. Don't forget to flour the meat before the frying, and use 2 cups or less of vegetable oil for the frying. Before you go, if you'd like a written copy of the recipes, you can find them at our website, www.garrisgirlschristianministry.org, and find them there. Thanks for watching, and God bless.